What's up and good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome in to the PWTorch Fireside Chat for Tuesday, December 13th, 2022. My goodness, we're almost going to have to say 2023 on this show, and that is going to be a weird day at the office for sure. A very weird day at the office, but I'm glad you guys are here with me. Appreciate it. I am PWTorch Assistant Editor Zach Haydorn. Thank you for joining me. It has been a pretty newsworthy afternoon and morning, I must say. It's been pretty interesting. Vince McMahon, his name back in the news, and so we're going to take some time here to chat Vince McMahon and the news of the day there, and then we will also preview WWE NXT, which is what we normally do here on our Tuesday episode of the Fireside Chat right here on the PWTorch YouTube channel. If you have not subscribed to the channel yet and you're listening to this, please do so. We're so close to 3,000 subscribers, guys. So close. It's just a number. I get it, but sometimes hitting those benchmarks and those landmarks make it just kind of make it fun. And you guys are all part of that. And we appreciate it. But if you haven't done that, if you haven't subscribed, click subscribe. I think you'll be happy that you did. We are live every single day right here on YouTube during the week, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, with preview shows, our flagship on Thursday afternoon, and then, of course, just kind of talking the news of the day as it comes up and as applicable. And certainly today is pretty darn applicable. So Zach, thank you for joining us in the chat. Christoph, all the way from Germany, appreciate you joining us, man. It's great to have you. Azan, what's going on? Thank you for joining us as well. So let's talk Vince McMahon. My goodness gracious. The news doesn't get better for Vince McMahon. The Wall Street Journal this morning reported that two of his accusers, one new and one previously known, have filed for damages against Vince McMahon. Rita Chatterton, the former referee who has alleged that she was raped by Vince McMahon 30 years ago, filing for $11 million in damages, maybe a little bit more, and a spa worker in 2000 from an encounter in 2011 in a California resort. Has also filed for damages as well. And again, that's the Wall Street Journal reporting this morning. You can check out the report. It's up at pwtorch.com right now. We have a link back to the Wall Street Journal story if you want that. But we do have the highlights for you as we saw fit on pwtorch.com. So you can go check that out. But needless to say, that's part one of another story that broke today. So we'll take that one first because it's shorter because it's just, more bad news around a guy that like Vince McMahon that is helping hopefully to bury him at this point in time. I mean, the more these things come out, the more disgraced he becomes. And I think the more that his legacy in wrestling gets, I don't want to say forgotten, and I don't really want to say tainted either, but the more it just gets kind of loaded up with other things that aren't just, pro wrestling related, good or bad. And there's been a lot of them throughout McMahon's career, steroid trial, stuff with Owen Hart, stuff with Jimmy Snuka, and countless other things. But this sticks. And I think it just goes to show you that I'm not sure a comeback, and we'll get to that in a minute, is possible for him at this point in time. It just with these things coming out and the nature of the allegations, it's not good. And it's even if you knew or figured this about Vince McMahon, and I think a lot of people did, just due to different rumors and different things talked about in regards to him throughout the years. allegations with a name, with a face, and with a lot of money behind them, millions of dollars. It's just not something you come back from. And, Vince McMahon has to deal with that and make good with that. And in terms of analyzing Vince McMahon, like, his career is now, like, going to be discussed, sure, with the first guy to ever create WrestleMania and the best and most successful wrestling promoter in the history of professional wrestling, but also that has had these allegations placed on him. And so, that's just the nature of the beast at this point in time. And I hope all the women that are legally going after Vince McMahon get what they're looking for, because they certainly deserve it, and then some. So that's part one of the story today. Part two is this idea of a Vince McMahon comeback. And the Wall Street Journal is reporting that people close to McMahon and sources that they have within the company have heard that Vince McMahon is going to attempt to come back to WWE, and that he, wish he didn't take the advice of people close to him that suggested he retire and step down, and that he's going to make a play to come back. And that is, obviously within the bounds of the legal investigation, that is either going to have it or it's not. Like, he's going to be allowed to do it or he's not, and he's going to do it or he's not. And then it's the legal process will play itself out. Now, in terms of just like from a wrestling perspective, from watching WWE programming, you got to wonder like what that means for a multitude of different things. If he's going to actually realistically attempt a quote unquote comeback, right? Like, like so much has already changed there in terms of like some of the presentation, in terms of the structure of NXT, in terms of like who Triple H is pushing, not really so much at the top of the card, but especially in that middle level of the card. Like, it's, we're not getting Ezekiel stories. We're not getting 24/7 title stuff. We're getting weird Johnny Gargano stuff and weird stuff with Dexter Lumis. And so it just seems like it hasn't been that long, and there haven't been any grandiose changes to the WWE product by design, in my opinion. But there have been a lot of little stuff that would take Vince McMahon a lot of time to undo at this point. Not to mention the fact that the entire company has been changed around in terms of its leadership. Like, you've got Stephanie McMahon as the chairwoman of the board. You've got Nick Khan and Stephanie as CEO. You've got Triple H as the head of creative that, is now firmly in that position. And do you want to mess with that if you're Vince McMahon? I don't think he cares. I think if he wants to, he will. But the real big question is Stephanie McMahon and Nick Khan and Triple H okay with this? And my guess is probably not. And that's what's going to be fascinating about this story to follow, just from a insider perspective of what is going on with the inner workings here. If Vince McMahon is actually going to attempt, again, this quote unquote comeback, if you will. And so from a wrestling fan perspective, we've got a poll up right now on PWTorch.com. I'm going to check the results here as we're live on the air, to just kind of see where things are at. Let's see. Okay. The question was, how do you feel about the prospects of Vince McMahon returning to WWE? And the options are very positive, slightly negative, or very negative. 86.4%, very negative. That's telling. And like I mentioned, the product as a whole is a little bit different in a lot of places, but from a big picture perspective, it's a similar product. a little more buttoned up, I think, a little bit more fine-tuned, a little bit more logical. But, it has a lot of the same talent at the top of the card that Vince McMahon had. It has a lot of the same types of stories, that Raw had at SmackDown when Vince McMahon was on board. But even within that, the little things apparently matter a lot. 86.6% now, 86 just went up. Have decided that, hey, you know what, we're good. We're good here. We don't want Vince McMahon's creative vision back, or otherwise in WWE, and that to me is really telling. That's a big. That's just a big number. 86.6%. And you got to think, you add the slightly negative into that. Now you're at 92%. That's negative, with 7%. Let's call it close. Very positive or slightly positive. And there's always some, trolling votes on Twitter that you have to take into account, right? So you got to think that. So it's like almost everybody who took the time to vote in this poll just does not want to see Vince McMahon come back. And I think that's really, really telling. Looking at the stock price, the news hasn't affected things all that much. The stock's down, a little over 1%, I believe. So from a business perspective, that news isn't really doing anything to the stock of note. So that's another thing to take into account. I want to get to your comments here, so I'm going to do the old comment scroll and just chat with you guys about what you guys are posting in here. Here we go. Let's start off with Christoph jumping in here saying, do you think there will ever be good news again for Vince McMahon? I seriously doubt it. And then you clarify public good news. At this point, no. It's tough to say at this point whether or not there'll be good news. Obviously, when Vince McMahon passes away, and people talk about him, that itself won't be good news. But I think at that point, you look at the whole person's career and life. And so, obviously from a business perspective in pro wrestling, there's going to be good fallout in terms of that, because Vince McMahon, had a positive impact on the wrestling industry for a really, really long time. And this has clouded that without question, these allegations and the sexual misconduct that's alleged against him by multiple women, and the hush money payouts by multiple women that are employees. That's not good. But in terms of news, no, I seriously doubt it too. I think people will look back on McMahon, and just have to analyze and balance both of those things. And there's some tremendous good in that. And there's some real gross stuff in there too. That's not good. That's equally as important. Good question, Christoph. Thank you. Let's see here. Let's keep going here. Sean jumping in saying, hey, what's up, everybody? Sean, thanks for joining us, by the way, my friend. Vince coming back better not happen, please, Lord. Yes, Sean, have you voted in our poll yet, my friend? Everybody agrees with you that is voted in our poll. So, yeah, you're not alone. You are not alone. Zach, there's no way, Sean. It'd be a complete catastrophe. Yeah, it would be. It'd be like a train wreck that you just couldn't look away from. Yeah, the drama there. We say it all the time, and Wade says it. Rich fan talks about it a lot. Oh God, the name of that HBO show is escaping me at this point. Oh my God. Somebody help me out with the name of the HBO. Succession. This is like a season of Succession right here. They talk about it all the time. I agree. It's fascinating, the politics at play. And so we'll see how it plays out. But yeah, catastrophe on multiple levels, I think. Maybe Nick Khan is not liking Triple H overspending lately. Maybe is on. Maybe. I mean, I think that, generally speaking, my guess is that Triple H, Paul Levesque, is on the same page as Nick Khan. I mean, Stephanie McMahon is a CEO as well. I don't think Paul Levesque has a blank check, to do whatever he wants, whenever he wants. I think the talent that he's brought back has been hit or miss. I think there's an element of, okay, you've got some hits like Johnny Gargano, and a miss like Karrion Kross, and then everything in between with Dakota Kai, Io Sky, and like there's a middle ground there too. So there's hits and misses, but I don't get the sense that like Triple H has this big check that he can just cut and use whenever he wants. So we'll keep going. Sean, once again, doesn't he understand that the fan base wouldn't want that and would push back against it? Yeah, Sean, whether he understands it or not, I think is like almost not the issue. I don't think Vince McMahon cares at this point in time what the fans think, and I don't know that he has for quite some time. I think he still. I mean, it's Vince McMahon, right? Like we know this. We don't know him personally, but we know his tendencies, and he's a ruthless businessman, at heart. No question about it. And, I think that he's still deep down, he believes that he's the best thing for the WWE. And he still owns the majority of the shares. So there's some power there. But we'll see. I don't think though that the fans will play into his decision making at all. Thanks, Sean. Appreciate it. Christoph coming back with the pushback would be great from fans. I don't see any chance that people in power right now would let him back. Even Stephanie. Yeah, that is the broader issue. Like what you reorged the whole company when he left. And not only from a like position standpoint, or this person's got that job, this person has that role, this person has that role, but you've now passed around responsibilities, because the fact of the matter is Vince McMahon did a lot of work for that company, and he did the job of multiple people that nobody in their right mind today would want to do all of that work. And so you split it up, and you have multiple people doing what Vince McMahon did, and I don't think you just blow that up. Just because Vince wants to come back. I don't think that. DJ, thanks for joining us, my friend. Appreciate it. Think of how many times WCW changed hands in leadership, and WWE reminds me of WCW. I miss the WWF. Yeah, I mean, but I just don't think it's going to happen, guys. Like I know that he's going to try to make this power play, but look, Paul Levesque, Stephanie McMahon, Nick Khan. They're very powerful now too. And it'd be a different story. It would be a different story if Vince McMahon left, retired, and the company just started floundering, where they couldn't find their way creatively, stocks going down, revenues going down, partnerships are drying up. And, Vince McMahon could sit back and go, all right, I need to come back to help fix this. But that's not what happened. The stock increased significantly. They've been able to just continue on business as usual. So Vince McMahon's impact, I think that shows that he's not necessary to the organization, maybe like he once was. And I'm sure it's a bitter pill for him to swallow. As much as he loves WWE, I'm sure it's a bitter pill personally. Because Vince McMahon, he's not a competitive guy at all. Wink, wink. Yes, he is. All right, let's keep going here. This is good. This is really good stuff. All right. Zach says, here's the thing, Zach. It's all a question of where people's loyalties lie. Would Nick Khan backstab Hunter? Would Stephanie choose her father or husband? What role could Bruce and Kevin Dunn, that is, play in a coup? Good points. All good points. I think we've already seen though that Stephanie, I think, is on her husband's side here. I mean, she comes in and she immediately places, Hunter in the role that Vince had, or one of the roles Vince had. Like, it didn't seem to me that Stephanie was trying very hard to keep her dad as the CEO of the company, because he had to leave for her to become CEO of the company. So I think it's, if she chooses her dad, she loses like her spot at the top of the company. I don't think she wants that. So it is about where people's loyalties lie, but I look at the situation and the landscape and I go, I don't know whose loyalties would lie with Vince McMahon at this point in time. Maybe it is Bruce Pritchard, right? And Kevin Dunn, but they wield power, but they don't wield enough to stage like a coup like that. They would need like a Nick Khan, but Nick Khan is smart. I think he knows how to play this, and he knows that maybe at one time Vince McMahon's side was the right side to be on, but I'm not gonna risk my position in the company to get him back when I'm doing just fine as CEO with Stephanie, right? Like, I just don't see an angle where it makes sense for these people to side with Vince McMahon, just given how things have gone. Thanks so much for joining us. If Vince comes back, I will never watch WWE again. I think there's a lot of people that will have that sentiment. I really do. Keep Vince away. There you go. Christoph, this would be great. I wish Wade would somehow get a chance to talk to Vince for one of his long interviews he does once or twice a year for the Torch. I know that Vince is not interested in that, but I'd really love to listen to. Yeah. Same thing. Same with me, man. That would be, that would be just fascinating. Just an absolutely fascinating listen, provided, he was going to give honest answers to Wade's questions. And Vince. Sir Fark, what's going on? Thanks for joining us, man. Let me just see if I can continue going through here. Yeah, and Sean, you hit the nail on the head with this one, man. What they have is working right now. Like I said, there hasn't been a big drop in stock. There hasn't been a big drop in revenue. There hasn't been a big drop in ratings. So the value that Vince McMahon brought, I don't think is what it was all of those years ago, where you couldn't even imagine Vince McMahon not in WWE. Well, that's just not the case. Clearly, and I think it could have gone the other way. I mean, I half expected, the day, if you would have told me this a year ago, I'd half expected like, oh man, it's a real tumultuous time in WWE with Vince McMahon gone. But that's not how it played out. They really picked up all the pieces quickly. They made some definitive moves. And I think Triple H in particular, from a TV content perspective, had built up enough equity with fans where people wanted to see him get the shot to run things at the top, on the main roster. And that's a big kind of feather in his cap. And, I don't think he's fully delivered on that. And there's different realities he has to deal with. And that's an entirely different conversation. But he's, there was an element of the fan base that wanted to see him get his shot, and now he has it. And I don't think people want to see it. Clearly, people don't want to see them go back to that. So be it. So be it. All right, we will keep everybody in the know on this Vince McMahon situation as we go through the week right here on the PWTorch YouTube channel and the Fireside Chat. We will have all the coverage and updates you need at PWTorch.com, so you can make sure to check that out there. But let's put a pin in the Vince McMahon discussion here, and let's preview NXT for tonight. It is the kind of the fallout show from NXT Deadline over the weekend, where we had the first ever Iron Survivor Challenge matches. They announced that the winners of both of those matches, so Roxanne Perez and Grayson Waller, will get their title shots at the NXT New Year's Evil event on January 10th. So they're not going to hold these matches until the Vengeance Day PLE. These are going to happen on January 10th. New Year's Evil. That's the New Year's Evil show has become a brand show for NXT. So they are going to pump that show up and try to drive a number out of that. So that's January 10th. The WWE tonight is advertising that both Grayson Waller and Roxanne Perez will be on the show to address their wins. So I'm looking forward to seeing what Waller and Roxanne Perez do as a means to kind of continue their run towards the title matches. Grayson Waller and Bron Breakker in a one-on-one feud for the NXT title, I think is what both those guys need right now. They've been kept apart for more than a year at this point. And Bron Breakker has worked with a lot of top tier talent. Grayson Waller, has kind of been back and forth with doing some main event level stuff and then doing some mid card stuff. But, he's clearly, has been a guy that's in their plans. Waller has worked with AJ Styles, he has a lot of big time moments under his belt, but Breakker and Waller have not touched, much, if at all, since NXT 2.0 and since those guys started to get television time. And I think that's how you do it. There's some heat here, I think, in this match. I think that there's a really good opportunity that Grayson Waller, because he's such a good talker, can bring out another side and maybe a little bit more range from Bron Breakker. And the fact of the matter is, these guys are kind of in the same place on the card. Bron Breakker a little bit higher, but Grayson Waller gets a lot of attention too. And so, when you have a scenario like that, a lot of times those guys work to get the best out of the other because it makes themselves look better. And I think that's an underrated aspect to some potential angles in NXT and on the main roster. When you look back through the years and you look at some of these up and coming matches between stars that were future big names, like Rock and Triple H stand out. Those guys wrestled all the time on the undercard, as they were on their way up in WWE. And, you have something similar here with Bron Breakker and Grayson Waller, different level. And who knows if they're going to end up being what The Rock and Triple H were. I'm not necessarily comparing those two guys to premier level talents in professional wrestling, but you have those opponents that bring out the best in you that can help you reach that next level. And I think that these guys are two candidates that can do that for the other, if done right. Roxanne Perez and Mandy Rose is a little bit of a different story. Mandy Rose has finished off, I think, her time in NXT. I don't know what else she can bring to the table at this point in time. She's beaten almost everybody. She's had a long run. She's rebuilt herself as a star in WWE, and now I think has more equity for Paul Levesque on the main roster than she ever had before. And it's time for her to move on. And Roxanne Perez is there waiting in the wings to kind of take the title, the ball, and run with it herself. And so this is more of I think a passing of the torch type feud than the Waller Bron Breakker. But I'm interested in where they go. I'd like to see, Roxanne Perez cut a promo. Sean, you mentioned in the chat, hey, Waller's promo should be really awesome. Yeah, it should. I hope he gets the time to do that. And so we'll see. But that'll be a big part of the show, is seeing how they position these Iron Survivor Challenge winners. Also, if I'm Shawn Michaels and you come out with this really cool, new concept for a match, and you have winners, they've got stakes, and they've got a big opportunity, like, I think you want to sell that really, really big on the Fallout show, which is the show today. I think you want to put a lot of juice behind how much that match matters, why it matters, what's the future, and just put it over as something that A, people want to see next year, but also that B, other talent wants to win and be involved with. It's important to sell the aftershock of that match on this week's show, and I think we're gonna get that. Also, WWE is promoting that the new NXT Tag Team Champions, The New Day, Kofi Kingston and Xavier Woods, are scheduled to appear. My guess is they have some sort of showdown with Pretty Deadly. They had a hell of a match at the NXT Deadline show, which, by the way, was just a really good show, top to bottom. I reviewed that with Greg Parks on Wrestling Night in America on the PWTorch Daily Cast. You can check that out right now on the Daily Cast and kind of get all of our thoughts on that. But they'll be on as well. Also on this week's show, we've got a bunch of matches that are set to take place. Gigi Dolan and JC Jane, Toxic Attraction, will face Tatum Paxley and Ivy Nile in a tag team match. Von Wagner is going to wrestle Odyssey Jones, and Damon Kemp. Oh my gosh, let me take a redo on that. Damon Kemp will face Duke Hudson as well. So, not a ton there, to be completely frank. Like, I don't know, guys. If you're looking at that card, and if you're on the fence, if you're watching this and you're on the fence as to whether or not you're going to tune in, I don't think those matches are going to make you tune in, and that's not what you want if you're Shawn Michaels. Maybe they're just going to put all their eggs in the basket of Grayson Waller and Roxanne Perez and just go with that follow-up. But none of these matches scream, oh, I got to watch this show. Gigi Dolan and JC Jane, Toxic Attraction against Paxley and Ivy Nile. That's just should be, squash city. Von Wagner against Odyssey Jones. I mean, I guess you could make this a little bit more competitive, but Von Wagner, there's been news breaking over the weekend and into last week that details the fact that Von Wagner could be in line for a main roster call-up. And if that's the case, maybe you want to put over somebody, but I don't know if that talent is Odyssey Jones at this point in time. So we'll see. And then Damon Kemp against Duke Hudson, I don't know, low card stuff. So you don't really have that main event level match tonight that's promoted. Maybe you'll get there, on the show with a promo of some kind. I don't know. But it just seems that it's a little thin. It's a little thin to say the least. All right, you guys, we'll put a bow on it there. Thank you so much for joining us. Great discussion on the Vince McMahon stuff. Azan, Sean, Christoph, Zach, Sir Fark, Cars. Let's see, who am I missing here? DJ and everybody else. Thank you. I appreciate it. We'll be back tomorrow live on the Fireside Chat right here on the PWTorch YouTube channel, breaking down and previewing AW Dynamite. Winter's coming, a big show for them as well. Keep it locked here. We'll be doing that tomorrow afternoon. And then, of course, Thursday, the Fireside Chat. The flagship edition, guys, will be here talking more news of the week, maybe more Vince McMahon developments. Who the heck knows these days? But thank you all once again. Appreciate it. Enjoy NXT tonight. We'll catch you guys next time.